guys. Welcome back. Today, we're going to continue talking about greenskins. If this video sounds a little different, it's because I'm trying a new setup. It's just an intermediate thing. Components for a better setup are coming. And I'm also realizing that in 40k they are not called greenskins, they are just called orcs. Anyways, tribes and clans. The orcs are an incredibly anarchic race whose armies and settlements seem utterly disorganized to outside eyes. In truth, however, greenskin society is guided by a rugged set of tried and tested traditions. Central to these tenets is the system of tribes and clans. Orcs thrive on conflict. The strongest rise to the top, while the weak become subservient and benefit from the superior leadership and head-kicking skills of their conquerors. To an orc, this state of affairs is perfectly satisfactory. If a greenskin tribe is beaten by another stronger tribe, the defeated orcs welcome the opportunity to be led into battle by a leader of even greater power. A tribe is simply all of the greenskins in a given location, regardless of what clan they may belong to, because in the end, an orc is an orc, and they will always put aside their differences if there is an opportunity to attack a common foe. Each tribe is led by its biggest and most powerful war boss, whose authority and power holds this loose confederation in check and prevents a civil war between the rival elements of the tribe. Tribes can vary hugely in size, depending on the influence of the war leader at the top of the pile. Because the ruling war boss cannot be everywhere at once, the tribes contain multiple warbands, each led by its own war boss, who is either one of the ruling war boss's appointed cronies, or else a local leader who has risen up to take command. Each war boss leads a warband that can comprise all manner of mobs, armored war engines, aircraft, artillery, and the like, forming a rough and ready army. Many warbands have a hard core of orc infantry at their heart, but beyond this they vary enormously from one to the next. Some may be entirely centered around squadrons of ramshackle fighter jets, while others may consist solely of lumbering walkers and war effigies. Like-minded orcs tend to cluster together, leading to warbands crammed with mechanized speed freaks or pyromaniac burna boys. The war boss's preferences can also dictate how their warband looks and fights. Some favor masses of charging boys and hulking knobs, while others prefer columns of ragged armored vehicles, or batteries of massive shootas and artillery. to a tribe, most also belong to a clan, such as the Goffs or Evil Sunz. Tribes are constantly breaking apart and reforming in the crucible of battle, but the clans are constant and enduring. A large tribe usually contains orcs from many different clans, and as each clan has its own distinct character and identity, its members tend to form warbands together whenever possible. This is not to say that they do not intermingle within a single army, but certainly orcs fight most efficiently when not distracted by inter-clan rivalries. There are 6 clans in particular that have spread from one side of the galaxy to the other. The Goffs, the Snakebites, the Bad Moons, the Blood Axes, the Deathskulls, and the Evil Sunz. Feral Orcs. Though the majority of orcs will never venture far from their tribe, there are those strange few who are driven to explore the remote locales of their world, compelled to do so even in preference to fighting. Such pioneers will seek out the deepest jungles or most arid deserts, where the majority of creatures would struggle to survive at all, and become the founders of new tribes of greenskin. In time, it is common for these tribes to degenerate into savages, sometimes known as wild boys. Should they endure and multiply, some of these groups will come into contact with their parent warband. There they learn about orc culture and take their place in the warrior society, exchanging spear and axe for slugga and choppa. However, should the new tribe emerge on a world where their orc ancestors have been driven off or slain, the wild boys will instead develop into a tribe of feral orcs. At other times, orc armies that suffer a sufficiently crushing defeat may be all but eradicated, and their survivors scattered in small pockets to the wildest and most inhospitable parts of a world. Such hidden greenskin enclaves retain little in the way of technology, and rapidly devolve into feral orcs through force of circumstance. Greenskins have notoriously short memories, and before long the only record such tribes possess of their more technological origins lies within the oral traditions of the runt herds. The orcs look with wondering eyes upon the crude glyph paintings of war engines that adorn their cave walls, but only until their attention wanders to catching a tasty squig or punching their mates in the face. What rusting wrecks remain of their battle wagons and combat walkers are treated as sacred relics, squatted in as huts, or smashed up and used to make clubs and arrowheads. At first, feral orc tribes pose little threat to the planet they infest, and living in remote areas often go undetected by the world's other occupants until it is too late. They are uncivilized even by the low standards of their orc brethren, and live by the old ways of hunting and exploring. As the tribe increases in size, they breed ever larger varieties of squig, riding around upon great tusked beasts that vary in size from that of a horse to that of a baneblade. Exploring the stomping grounds of their predecessors, the feral orcs soon learn to scavenge weapons and equipment, and rejoice in the noise and destruction their new tools allow them to cause. Shortly after this discovery, the tribe will mobilize for war, whooping and howling as they pour out of the mountains, jungles, or deserts, charging into the cities and fortifications of the unsuspecting enemy, and starting the whole cycle of warfare afresh. As the war drags on and the mighty Squiggoths are slain one by one, they will be replaced by crudely constructed battle wagons covered in beast fetishes that hark back to the squigs that came before. Should the feral orcs survive the fighting long enough, they will inevitably mature into a fully fledged and technologically capable society akin to a typical orc tribe, only to spawn wandering wild boys of their own. The Goff clan. A Goff sees himself as very much an orc's orc. Big, violent, brutally direct, and utterly disinterested in anything they consider to be mucking about. The Goffs go to war in huge hordes and trample their enemies into the floor by dint of sheer aggression. A Goff likes nothing more than hearing the hammering of guns and that satisfying wet crunch when his choppa finds its way deep into the throat or chest of an enemy. They seize upon any excuse to start a fight, even with each other. Often, all it takes is a grunted insult or a misinterpreted glance in their general direction for the fists to begin flying. The boys quickly forgetting the reason for the bust-up and simply enjoying the resulting brawl. With the Goffs preferring to fight their enemies up close and personal. This tendency towards near constant scrapping amongst themselves also serves a practical purpose by keeping their hand-to-hand skills honed between battles. Goff warbands are notorious for the sheer number of infantry they muster in times of war. All it takes is the hint of a good conflict, and the Goffs appear in droves, flocking to any war boss who can promise them the chance of opening some skulls. Because of their preference for close combat, Goffs like to fight on foot, though they will happily hitch a lift on a passing truck so they can get stuck into the enemy as soon as possible. Goff mobs are usually dozens strong, and a true Goff warband has multitudes of boys at its heart, so that when they go to war, the ground shakes to the stampeding thunder of steel-capped boots. Enemies often interpret these massed infantry assaults as a deliberate tactic by the greenskins to overwhelm set defenses. More likely, though, is that each individual Goff is just following the rest of their mob without giving a thought to wider strategy, rightly reasoning that if an orc is charging across the battlefield, then there will be something to attack at the other end. The Goffs use a bull's head as their clan emblem, as they feel a kinship with bad-tempered, violent, and flatulent beasts. Horned helms are also seen as a symbol of the clan's aggression, and can even make handy weapons, making a headbutt or charge even more vicious. They dress predominantly in black, on the basis that dressing up in flashy colors is for wimps and mad boys. Though they sometimes decorate their war gear with patterns, the majority of the clan's members, commandos aside, are disgusted by the concept of camouflage. They consider the idea of hiding from a fight cowardly, and cannot comprehend why an orc might not want to have a go. Most Goffs see it as their Gork-given right to lord it over other greenskins, especially those of other clans, who they view as inferior. The longest-lived and most battle-hardened Goffs are known as Scar Boys, and form their own mobs of veteran killers within a Goff warband. Meanwhile, Goff warbosses and knobs are among the most fearsome examples of their kind, and are natural leaders with a talent for keeping unruly mobs of boys in line. Goffs also have a fearsome reputation in the fighting pits, although consider making teeth off of these contests only a byproduct of the fights themselves. As any self-respecting Goff will tell his boys, fighting for teeth is all well and good, but a proper Goff should always be willing to break faces for free. And it is this point that I am going to point out that Goffs in Orcish probably is Goths with a TH. And what color do Goths mostly wear? Black. So these guys are the 40k equivalent of black orcs. I have no idea if that's accurate, I just came up with that. The Evil Sunz clan. Not every speed freak belongs to the Evil Sunz clan, but the vast majority of the Evil Sunz are most definitely speed freaks. If it goes fast, kills people violently, and is painted a bright and garish red, then an Evil Sunz orc probably already has 3 of it, and undoubtedly wants another. The orcs belonging to the Evil Sunz clan are irresistibly attracted to every conceivable kind of fast vehicle, be it low-riding buggies, monstrous warbikes, or supersonic aircraft. Evil Sunz will spend every tooth they possess in order to own them. The richest Evil Sunz can even afford to have a mech customize their ride, bolting on more wheels, bigger engines, and louder rockets. Anything that looks like it might make the vehicle go faster is fair game. So it is not unusual to see wings attached to warbikes, jet engines mounted on the back of trucks, or even more bizarre means of propulsion, such as squig treadmills and massive propellers. Should an Evil Sunz orc live long enough, he will inevitably acquire his own vehicle, whether he buys it with carefully hoarded teeth or takes the simpler route of just nicking it from another clan member. If he cannot drive into battle, then he will ride, and if he cannot ride, At least he can content himself with being close to the throaty, growling engines of his warband, his nostrils filled with the satisfying promethium stink. Evil Sunz, who therefore have to fight on foot, usually race into battle crammed into trucks or battle wagons, or at least run as fast as they can towards the enemy, bellowing a throaty battle roar. The Evil Sunz never stay in one place for long, always on the lookout for new victims to slaughter. Clan members have a tendency to leave a battle midway through if it looks like the main part of the fighting is over, or abandon a burning city or ruined world if there is nothing left worth killing. They especially like a good chase, as it gives them a chance to really open up the throttle on their vehicles. Enemy forces who turn tail on the Evil Sunz often learn this to their misfortune, the orcs running them down with frenzied glee, even after being given a sporting head start by the speed-addicted greenskins. Evil Sunz like two things most, going fast and crumpin' stuff. That's why we so good at it. Lug nut of the bladed wheels. The armies of the Imperium find it extremely difficult to engage the Evil Sunz on anything other than the Orcs' terms, for the heavy vehicles of the Imperial Guard are outmaneuvered with ease by the Greenskins' supercharged speedsters. A favored tactic of Evil Sunz warbands is to charge headlong into the enemy lines, but then keep charging out to the other side so they can wheel around and charge again. Long columns of warbikes, buggies, and trucks snake in and out of the foe's formations, while the orcs on board whoop, yell, and fire their guns. This tactic is devastating against more static armies who struggle to redress their firing lines or turn to engage the orcs before the greenskins are surging back through their outflanked defensive positions, and then back around and through again until all cohesion is lost. Even highly mobile forces like Tau hunter cadres or Drukhari raiding parties are threatened by the speed freaks of the Evil Sunz, who are capable of keeping a pace and even revel in these so-called speed wars. The totem of the Evil Sunz clan is a blood-red orc face grimacing from the heart of a jagged sunburst. They wear red armor and often paint their machines red too, firmly believing in the old greenskin adage that red ones go faster. Evil Sunz war bosses will usually have their vehicles painted red from grille to exhaust. This orc habit of painting vehicles red has its roots in the ritual covering of mounts with the blood of the foe, a tradition that is still observed with manic relish by some Evil Sunz to this day. The Blood Axe Clan. Blood axes are generally held to be a bit un-orky by most greenskins. This reputation comes from their tendency to use actual battlefield tactics, often to great effect. Nothing surprises an enemy commander like orcs who actually think about how, where, and when to fight. The Blood Axes are viewed with distrust by the other clans, as they trade openly with the Imperium's more isolated worlds, plan their battles in advance, and even consider retreat to be something that can be done on purpose. are qualities that would recommend the Blood Axes as natural leaders amongst most of the galaxy's other races, but instead see them labeled as treacherous scumbags by the vast majority of greenskins. In fact, most of the Blood Axe's reputation is undeserved. True, they have made the most contact with the Imperium, occasionally even fighting for the humans as mercenaries, and making extensive use of Imperial war material. Then again, every orc can see the funny side of extorting weapons from human planets, only to use them against their former owners. The Blood Axe's reputation amongst the clans is not helped by the fact that a lot of their young orcs end up in the Storm Boys. These odd formations are a place where a youth can rebel against the anarchy of greenskin society by following orders, conducting precise military drills, and polishing their boots. Heckled and laughed at by most other orcs, the Storm Boys spend hours each day marching about and chanting, saluting each other, and generally carrying on in very un-orky ways. As they age, most Storm Boys leave for proper mobs, but some, especially Blood Axes, gain a taste for it, and will rise to command whole formations of black-booted young orcs. Blood Axes view the act of getting shot before they reach the enemy lines as a waste of a good fight, and so many have adopted the practice of wearing camouflage. For this reason, the clan has a natural affinity for commando mobs, and makes extensive use of them in battle. Unlike other kinds of orcs, commandos like to sneak up on their foes, using all the dirty, underhanded tricks they can think of to get the drop on them. Us Blood Axes have learned a lot from the Humies, how best to kill him, for example. Corporal Snagbrat of the Dread Blade Commandos. Of course, Blood Axe warbands are made up of far more than just these specialist mobs. Blood Axe war bosses have a better understanding of grand strategy than their equivalents from the other clans, knowing when to combine a Daka jet strike with a ground attack, or send a mob of commandos on a covert mission. This grasp of diverse tactics means the warbands they lead are likely to comprise a strategically versatile mixture of infantry, either foot slogging or riding aboard mechanized transports, supported by heavy armor, batteries of field guns, and wings of daring flyboys. Their battle wagon blitz brigades are especially feared, while the Blood Axe's rather un-orky ability to strike and fade with feral cunning has seen them erode, confound, and eventually stomp flat many a surprised enemy army. This trait makes them especially dangerous to foes who assume the Blood Axe's grasp of actual tactics is as lacking as that of the rest of their race. The Deathskulls clan. Orcs of the Deathskulls are cunning, light-fingered, untrustworthy, and insular, with a mean streak a mile wide. That said, there are none more skilled when it comes to looting the battlefield and cobbling together weapons and tanks from the resultant junk. Deathskulls are plunderers without equal. They are tremendously adept at looting and scavenging on the battlefield, and are also especially talented at scrounging, stealing, and borrowing things from their fellow orcs, and in the case of the latter, notoriously bad at giving the items back. Given their ingenuity and the higher-than-average density of mechs in their warbands, most Deathskulls would make capable scientists and excellent engineers if their fascination for new things lasted longer than the time it took to acquire them. The Deathskulls see battle as a two-stage process, often hurrying the killing part in an effort to hasten the arrival of the scavenging spree that follows. After the battle, the boys really go to work, feverishly stripping corpses of everything from ammunition to bootlaces. Many Deathskulls will take grisly trophies from their victims in the bargain, such as scalps or skulls. Only when they return to their encampment with the loot does the inevitable infighting break out, as the Deathskulls trade their ill-gotten gains. Other orcs drawn to Deathskull camps in search of goods, perhaps looking for a specific bit of loot, or something of their own that was stolen during battle, usually leave with less than they came with, as the Deathskulls have the uncanny ability to knock another orc around the head while going through his pockets at the same time. What, this? Nah, I've had this for ages. Of course the paint's still wet, it's me favourite. Sell it to you if you like. One careful owner. Fingers Rutzeg, Deathskull Looter. Deathskulls do not limit their pillaging to corpses. Wrecked vehicles are especially popular. The burned-out hulls of battle tanks, armored transports, and aircraft all seen as fair game. Dragged off the battlefield, they can either be broken down for bits or taken to a mech who will beat some life back into them. Many foes have been horrified to see one of their own vehicles turned against them in this way, Deathskulls yelling insults from the turrets of their new acquisition as it delivers death to its former owners. The clan uses a horned death's head as its totem, and this symbol is added onto anything its members have stolen, borrowed, or looted, so as to establish ownership. This process can also involve painting the item blue, which orcs believe is a lucky color, with blue handprints and smears on vehicles common methods of staking a claim. The Deathskulls even use blue war paint, daubing themselves from head to toe in it the night before a battle. Strangely enough, this practice seems to work, bullets missing the Deathskulls by hair's breadths, while their own violent efforts are rewarded more often than not by disproportionate levels of success. Given the Deathskull's broad definition of what constitutes personal property, it is little wonder that so many of their clan are looters. This, in turn, means that most Deathskull's warbands produce an unrivaled amount of dakka on the battlefield, the better to break down the vehicles and war gear of the enemy into more easily lootable pieces. The Bad Moons Clan. Every orc of the other clans know that the Bad Moons are showy gits with too many teeth for their own good. That said, they also know how to dive for cover when the yellow-daubed loons open fire, for the sheer amount of dakka that a Bad Moons warband kicks out is amazing to behold. The orcs of the Bad Moons tend to be richer than other greenskins. This is because their teeth grow faster than anyone else's, meaning that even the lowliest of them has a steady supply of wealth. This is not regarded as an unfair advantage, as any greenskin who is big and strong enough can simply smash the teeth out of a Bad Moon's orc's head. In fact, many war bosses like to keep a mob of Bad Moons around for just this purpose. Their toothy gobs a ready supply of extra teeth. It is often not a terrible deal for the Bad Moons either, as any orc tough enough to beat their teeth out of them is usually one worth following into a fight. The Bad Moons fulfill the role of what passes for a merchant class within orc society, and if something can be bought or sold, odds are the Bad Moons will have it. Some runtards reckon that it must have been the Bad Moons who came up with the whole concept of teeth being used to buy things, when the clan figured out how quickly their teeth grow. Of course, many runtards say it is the other way around, and when teeth became orc currency, the Bad Moons made their teeth grow quicker, so they would have the most. The subject is seldom dwelt upon for long, however, as knocking out teeth is far more interesting than talking about them. All this wealth means that the Bad Moons have a reputation for ostentatiousness, and their vehicles are festooned with gaudy decorations and gold plating, as is the majority of their war gear. Bad Moons love gold more than any other metal, and will commonly have a couple glinting teeth in their avaricious grins. As most orcs consider gold to be practically worthless, being too soft to make good weapons or vehicles with, they are more than happy to trade it away to Bad Moons for the more valuable teeth. Nothing better than giving the enemy some pricey daca and making sure everyone knows it. Gore's brag, Bad Moon's knob. Bad Moon's mobs are always well equipped, at least by orc standards. Their knobs sport flashy banners and massive customized shooters, and are followed by entourages of scurrying grot servants and batteries of powerful mech artillery. Indeed, grots find many ways to prosper within Bad Moon's warbands. The most capable amongst them inveigle their way into the good books of some boss or another, and become their personal toady, lugging the extra shiny gubbins the orc can't be bothered to carry himself. The Bad Moons favor golden yellow and black for their war gear, taking a snarling moon on a field of flames as their clan emblem. Their armor and weapons are painted with gaudy patterns in the clan colors, and they have more jewelry and piercings than the greenskins of any other clan. If something looks valuable, a Bad Moon's orc will find a way to wear it, stick it through his body, or bolt it onto the side of his vehicle, preferably somewhere that every other orc can clearly see it. However, only a fool would underestimate the raw strength of the orc beneath the ostentation. The shiny boss pole of a Bad Moon's war boss is just as much a tool to smash skulls as it is a symbol of vast wealth. The Snakebite clan. Snakebites are traditionalists, and many of them are only one or two rusty rungs above feral orcs on the ladder of civilization. This has never held Snakebite warbands back, however, for when they unleash their tribal fury upon the enemy, there are few who can long withstand it. Considered backward by the more technologically minded clans, Snakebites still follow the old ways. Scorning complicated technological gubbins, they put their faith in things they can trust. A good bit of sharpened bone, a heavy stick, or a nice, keen-edged chopper. In battle, they daub themselves with mud and war paint, hanging the claws and teeth of beasts they have killed around their necks, and wearing poorly cured skins. As a result of their primitive lifestyle, the Snakebites appear weather-beaten, and they are tough as old boots. They are experts in the field of breeding stock, and their grots and squigs are the most genuinely vicious and dangerous in all of orcdom. When a warband of Snakebites joins a battle, it brings with it a menagerie of these creatures, their camp a chaos of snarling squigs and running, screaming runts. When other orcs are looking for an aggressive attack squig, or an unusually fierce or obedient grot, they come to the Snakebites. The most fearsome beasts bred by the Snakebites are the mighty Squigoths. Huge, towering creatures capable of knocking over war machines and trampling entire platoons. A well-trained Squigoth becomes almost completely loyal to its Snakebite master, recognizing him by his distinct smell and serving him as both a living battle tank and an enormous beast of burden. The Snakebite's name and emblem comes from a rite of passage that involves a youth goading an extremely poisonous serpent into biting them to prove their toughness, then sucking out the majority of the venom. A snakebite will repeat this process throughout their life, building up an immunity to venoms, and they usually bring poisonous serpents to each new world they invade, in case the local wildlife proves disappointingly inoffensive. As far as a snakebite is concerned, snakes make the best pets. Obviously, the more aggressive, the better. The Snakebites' rundards cultivate hordes of Gretchen, who in times of war are given weapons and herded into battle, often to man artillery batteries. Ironically, the more sophisticated weapons that fall into the hands of the Snakebites usually find their way into the hands of their grots, as the runts of the tribe are left to figure out how they work. The orcs, meanwhile, gather into especially large and surly mobs, who chant and bellow as they work themselves into a frenzy. When the Snakebites launch an assault, it is with such shocking ferocity that the enemy is buried under an avalanche of battle-crazed orcs. Snapping squigs, gun-wielding grots, and rusty, ramshackle wagons. Though they may be rather low-tech, the Snakebites are a deadly foe. Live off the land, go to war, kill what comes close. The old ways are best. Grodd, Snakebite Runterd. Freebooters. Freebooters are outcasts from orc society, greenskins who, by choice or through exile, have left their tribe and clan behind. They rampage across the galaxy in piratical mercenary warbands, fighting together even as they compete viciously with each other to accrue the most loot. Orc freebooters are notorious pirates and thieves. Many ply the void in smoking, sparking ships with the intent of causing as much mayhem and destruction as possible. They prey upon anyone foolish enough to stray into their hunting grounds, screaming out of the dark on plumes of fire to blast apart their foes. When an enemy vessel is crippled or foolishly tries to surrender, the freebooters will smash their way on board, killing anything that moves and stealing anything that doesn't. The freebooters then haul their booty back to their hidden bases and count their ill-gotten gains. Freebooter warbands are typically made up of greenskins who have left, or, more often, been thrown out of their clans. Some of these orcs have seen the majority of their tribe annihilated, either in a spectacularly destructive war or due to some apocalyptic disaster. In recent years, this has most often been the result of warp storms encroaching upon greenskin territories. While plenty of orcs have made it clear before their worlds or space forts were destroyed, the encroaching energies of the Great Rift have sent many a bit peculiar, skewing their rambunctious orc nature and leaving them either viciously acquisitive loot grabbers, or else straight-up mad boys. Whatever their origins, freebooters are forever shorn from the greater masses of orcdom, adopting their own unique culture that many greenskins see as dubiously un-orky in its outlook. Instead of trying to find a new tribe to join, or maintaining the traditions of their originating clan, they nominate a leader, invariably the biggest and meanest of them all, to be their freebooter war boss before setting off to maraud around the galaxy and cause as much trouble as they can. While no orc ever loses his love of a good punch-up, freebooters are notorious for being grasping and avaricious to a fault, motivated by the selfish desire to amass as great a personal fortune of teeth as they can. Individualistic rogues, they garb themselves in garish colors and ostentatious trophies, festooning their war gear with precious metals, displaying the glyph of the jolly orc wherever they can on black banners, vehicle hulls, and the like. Freebooters launch lightning raids against vulnerable worlds, bedevil space lanes like opportunistic vultures, and fight for any war boss willing to hire their services, at least until the teeth run out. Many freebooter warbands are composed mainly of flash kits, for the mercenary life tends to rapidly render an orc one of two things: rich or dead. However, beyond these ultra-competitive show-offs, freebooter warbands are every bit as varied as those of the orc tribes, and often substantially more hodgepodge. That's not how we say that in the States. We say hodgepodge. Bad mechs and bad docs are much in evidence, alongside ragtag mobs of freebooter boys. Rebellious grots rub scrawny shoulders with bad orc biker boys, dribbling mad boys, and wandering Gorkanaut and Morkanaut pilots. Lent support by low-orbiting kill cruisers, marauding freebooter warbands hit hard, enjoy a chaotic brawl, and then steal whatever isn't nailed down before vanishing into the void as swiftly as they arrived. And like the freebooters, it is now time for me to vanish, and this video along with me. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.